Picture this. You're test driving like a super swanky spaceship. Right, quick spin around the block. Maybe try to parallel park it on the moon just for kicks. But then, that quick spin turns into like a 9-month parking nightmare. You're stuck orbiting the Earth with no way back. That's kind of the crazy cosmic adventure that NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams have been living for the past, well, almost a year. Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unravel these space sagas. Today, we're taking a deep dive into how a 10-day mission turned into a surprise staycation aboard the ISS. It's quite the itinerary change, isn't it? They were supposed to be up there for about 10 days back in June 2024, and now here we are, March 17th, 2025, almost a year later. But the good news is their unplanned orbital odyssey is about to end. They're scheduled to come home aboard a SpaceX Dragon capsule maybe as early as tomorrow, Tuesday, March 18th. We've been following this story closely, sifting through news reports, mission updates, all that good stuff, to try and piece together how this happened. Exactly. And that's why we're here to figure out just how a routine test flight turned into this epic space saga. We'll be exploring the technical glitches, the human side of being stuck in space for so long, and what this whole thing means for the future of space travel. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a wild ride.
It certainly will be. So to set the stage, this all started with Boeing's Crew Flight Test, or CFT. It was basically the final exam for their new Starliner spacecraft, part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program, which, aims to have private companies like SpaceX and Boeing taxi astronauts to and from the ISS.
Right, because after the space shuttle program ended, NASA was kind of in a bind. They needed a way to get their astronauts to the ISS, and for a while they were hitching rides on Russia's Soyuz capsules, which worked. But, having a backup plan and some good old American competition never hurts, especially when your destination is a space station orbiting the Earth at 17,500 miles per hour.
Absolutely. The goal was for both SpaceX and Boeing to provide reliable, American-made spacecraft capable of crew transport. Think of it like having two different pizza delivery options, except instead of pizza, it's astronauts, and instead of your house, it's the International Space Station.
And SpaceX already aced their test back in 2020. Their Dragon capsule has been ferrying crews back and forth with no major issues. But Boeing's Starliner, well, let's just say it's had a few more hiccups along the way.
It has indeed, which brings us to our accidental space tourists, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams. These are two very experienced astronauts. Butch is a former Navy pilot who's flown everything from fighter jets to the space shuttle, and even a Soyuz capsule. He's known for his methodical approach and his dry sense of humor. Suni is a record-setting spacewalker who spent more time outside the ISS than some people spend on vacation. She's got this infectious energy and a real can-do attitude. They were the perfect team for this test flight, at least. That's what everyone thought.
Right, they were supposed to be up there for about 8 days, dock with the ISS, run some tests, maybe swap some space stories with the crew, and then head back home. A nice quick trip to space and back.
Exactly, a cosmic commute. But as we know, space travel rarely goes exactly according to plan. And in this case, it went very, very off course.
So tell me what exactly went wrong with Starliner. Why did a short mission suddenly become a 9-month ordeal?
Well, things started to go sideways shortly after launch. On June 5th, 2024, just hours after liftoff, engineers started noticing some problems with the Starliner's propulsion system. First, they detected helium leaks. Helium, is used to pressurize the fuel lines that feed the thrusters, the little engines that control the spacecraft's orientation and stability. So yeah, helium leaks, not a good sign.
Definitely not. So if those thrusters aren't working properly, it's like trying to drive a car with a wonky steering wheel, except in this case, the car is a spaceship and the road is well spaced.
Exactly. And to make matters worse, 5 of the Starliner's 28 thrusters started misfiring or just flat out stopped working altogether. They just decided to take an early retirement. While the spacecraft has redundant systems, meaning there are backups for most components having 5 thrusters malfunction, so early in the mission raised some serious red flags about the overall reliability of the propulsion system.
So imagine you're trying to park this brand new spaceship, which is already having some engine trouble, and now your steering wheel is acting up too.
Yeah.
Talk about a high-pressure situation.
That's putting it mildly. They were essentially trying to parallel park a Winnebago in space with a leaky gas tank and a steering wheel that only worked half the time.
And yet somehow they managed to dock with the ISS.
They did. It was a pretty tense few hours, but
Yeah.
relying on a combination of the Starliner's automated systems and their own piloting skills, which, let's be honest, are pretty top-notch, they managed to get the spacecraft docked, albeit a little less gracefully than planned.
So they got to the ISS, but then what happened? Why didn't they just hop back in the Starliner and head home?
Well, that was the initial plan, but after analyzing all the data from those thruster malfunctions and helium leaks, NASA and Boeing decided it was just too risky to bring the astronauts back in the Starliner. It was like realizing that your car's brakes are shot and deciding to call a tow truck. instead of risking a drive down a mountain road.
Right. So they sent the Starliner back to Earth, empty a ghost ship, as some people called it, while Butch and Suni stayed on the ISS.
Precisely. On September 6, 2024, Starliner undocked from the ISS and made its way back to Earth, landing safely in New Mexico but without its intended passengers, which meant that Butch and Suni's 10-day mission had suddenly become an indefinite stay, like checking into a hotel for a weekend and ending up living there for months.
That's got to be a strange feeling. You go up to space expecting to be back home in a little over a week, and then suddenly you're told, well, actually, you're going to be up there for a while longer. We're not sure how long yet, but don't worry, we'll figure something out.
It's definitely not the kind of news you want to hear when you're hundreds of miles above the Earth. But to their credit, Butch and Suni took it all in stride. They settled into life on the ISS, embraced the unexpected, and continued to contribute to the mission.
So for over 270 days, the International Space Station became their home, their office, and their gym. It's amazing to think about this massive structure, bigger than a football field, hurtling through space at incredible speeds, with these two astronauts living and working inside it.
It really is a marvel of engineering and human ingenuity. Life on the ISS is very structured. They have a strict daily routine that includes exercise mealtimes, work on various science experiments, and regular communication with mission control, all while floating in microgravity. It's a unique and challenging environment, to say the least.
I can't even imagine trying to make a cup of coffee in zero gravity, let alone doing complex scientific research or repairs.
It takes a special kind of person to adapt to life in space. And Butch and Suni are clearly both incredibly resilient and resourceful. They integrated seamlessly into the existing ISS crew Expedition 71 and continue to contribute to the mission's goals.
So what kind of work were they doing up there? I know the ISS is a hub for all sorts of scientific research.
Oh, absolutely. They were involved in a wide range of projects, everything from studying the effects of microgravity on the human body, to growing crystals in space, to testing out new 3D printed tools that could be used for repairs and maintenance. It's basically a giant orbiting laboratory with experiments going on all the time.
And Suni, with her extensive spacewalk experience, I bet she was itching to get outside and do some repairs or upgrades.
It's highly likely. Given her background, she was probably involved in some of the more complex external maintenance tasks. You know, those spacewalks where they go outside the station to fix things or install new equipment. She's essentially a cosmic handyman.
And Butch, with his leadership experience, probably played a big role in keeping crew morale up during this extended stay. Being stuck in a confined space for months on end with the same people can be tough, even if that space is a super cool space station.
Absolutely. He's known for his calm demeanor
Yeah.
and his ability to stay focused under pressure. Those are invaluable qualities in a situation like this. He probably helped to create a sense of normalcy and routine for the crew and made sure everyone was staying positive and productive.
You know, it's funny, I was reading that NASA puts astronauts through all sorts of psychological training to prepare them for the isolation and confinement of space travel.
Hmm.
They have them live in remote locations like Antarctica or spend weeks underwater in simulators, but I can't imagine any training could have fully prepared them for this kind of unexpected long-duration stay.
It's true. These are highly trained individuals who are used to dealing with uncertainty and challenging conditions. But 9 months is a long time to be away from home and family with no clear end date in sight. It's a testament to their resilience and their ability to adapt that they were able to handle it so well.
And they each seem to find their own ways to cope with this situation. Suni focused on the beauty of Earth from space and the excitement of the scientific research, while Butch drew strength from his faith, even leading virtual prayer sessions with his congregation back in Tennessee. It's amazing how they were able to find moments of joy and connection despite the circumstances.
It is incredibly inspiring. They could have easily become discouraged or demoralized, but they chose to focus on the positive and find meaning in their work and their connection to the people back home.
And they probably had some fun up there, too. I mean, zero gravity has got to be pretty cool. I bet they were doing all sorts of flips and tricks and playing space games that we can't even imagine down here.
Oh, I'm sure they found ways to entertain themselves. They might have had some zero-G ping pong tournaments using water droplets, or maybe they invented some new space-themed board games. Only they know for sure.
So they're up there making the best of a very strange situation. But back on Earth, the big question was how to get them home safely, especially after the Starliner's troubles.
Right. The original plan was for them to return on a SpaceX Dragon capsule in February 2025 as part of a regular crew rotation. But in a twist of irony that only space travel can provide, the Dragon capsule that was supposed to bring them home had some battery issues of its own. It seems like even the most advanced technology can have its bad days.
It seems like their ride home got a flat tire.
Basically, but thankfully, SpaceX was able to swap out the faulty capsule with a new one. And on March 15th, a fresh crew of 4 astronauts, Expedition 72, launched to the ISS on that new Dragon. They brought with them an extra seat, essentially creating a cosmic carpool for Butch and Suni.
So after all this time, Butch and Suni are finally coming home on a SpaceX Dragon, the very spacecraft that their mission was supposed to compete with.
It is a bit ironic, isn't it? But it also highlights the importance of having multiple options for crew transport in space. If one system fails, you need a backup. In this case, SpaceX's Dragon stepped up to the plate.
Speaking of backups, this whole Starliner situation has got to be a bit of a blow to Boeing. They were awarded a huge contract from NASA to develop this spacecraft, and it's safe to say things haven't gone as smoothly as planned.
It's definitely been a setback for them. Their initial uncrewed test flights in 2019 and 2022 both had issues, and then this crewed test flight in 2024, well, we've seen how that turned out. They've spent billions of dollars and years of work on this project, and now they're facing a lot of scrutiny and questions about the future of this Starliner program.
And it kind of puts NASA in a tough spot, too. They were hoping to have 2 American companies providing crew transport to the ISS, but for now they're reliant on just SpaceX, which is great for SpaceX, but not ideal for competition or redundancy. What if something happens to SpaceX's Dragon? What if there's a delay or a technical issue? Then what?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Having a backup system is crucial for any space mission, especially when you're talking about transporting humans. And this situation really highlights that need. It's not just about competition, it's about safety and reliability. Having 2 providers reduces the risk and gives NASA more flexibility.
So while Butch and Suzanne are getting ready to come home, hopefully tomorrow, Boeing is left trying to figure out what went wrong with Starliner and how to fix it. They're analyzing the data from the test flight running simulations, redesigning components. It's going to be a long and expensive process.
It will be. They're basically back at the drawing board trying to figure out how to make Starliner a safe and reliable spacecraft, which was the whole point of the program in the first place.
Yeah.
It's going to take time and a lot of effort to regain NASA's trust and get Starliner back on track.
But amidst all the technical challenges and the political fallout, let's not forget the incredible human story at the heart of this whole saga. Butch and Suni have been through a lot. An unplanned 9-month stay in space, technical malfunctions, the disappointment of not completing their original mission, but they've handled it all with grace, humor, and professionalism. They're true inspirations.
Absolutely. They've shown us what it means to be adaptable, resilient, and resourceful. They've kept their sense of humor, they've continued to work hard, and they've never lost sight of the bigger picture. They're a reminder that even when things go wrong, and they often do in space, human ingenuity and the human spirit can overcome almost any obstacle.
And the public has really responded to their story. From the initial worry when they were first stranded, to the memes and the jokes, to the outpouring of support and admiration, it's clear that Butch and Suni have captured the imagination of people around the world.
They've become accidental space celebrities. They've shown us the human side of space exploration, the challenges, the triumphs, and the unexpected adventures that come with venturing beyond Earth. They're an inspiration to us all.
So as they prepare to return to Earth, to the smell of fresh-cut grass and the joy of walking their dogs, to the feeling of gravity and the embrace of their loved ones, what lessons can we take away from their extraordinary experience? What does their story tell us about the future of space travel?
It tells us that space travel is inherently risky and unpredictable things can and do go wrong, but it also tells us that we have the ingenuity, the resilience, and the spirit to overcome those challenges. It tells us that we need to have backup plans and redundant systems, that competition and collaboration are both essential for progress, and that the human desire to explore, to push beyond our limits, is a powerful force that will continue to drive us forward.
And as we look ahead to future missions to the Moon, to Mars, and beyond, we'll need to remember the lessons learned from Butch and Suni's unplanned 9-month stay on the ISS. We'll need to be prepared for the unexpected, to invest in redundancy, and to never underestimate the power of the human spirit. That's it for our deep dive into this incredible space saga. Thanks for joining us.
It's been my pleasure.